There are literally hundreds of swordsmen in the One Piece world, but did you ever wonder who the strongest ones are? Well, after analyzing each one, I managed to create a list of the 15 greatest One Piece swordsmen of all time. And some of these picks you are definitely not expecting. For example, in 15th place we've got Shiryu, the former head jailer of Impel Down Prison. Shiryu's incredible swordsmanship skills were a big part of why Impel Down was considered impenetrable by most of the world, as nobody would dare face him. Even after he got stripped of his title and captured, Magellan, his former partner and warden, requested his help to take down the Blackbeard pirates. The crew he ironically ended up joining the same day. After Absalom was killed by the Blackbeard pirates, Shiryu acquired the powers of his devil fruit, 𝐂𝐸𝐸 no Mi, which pretty much allows him to turn himself and anything he touches invisible. Shiryu's lack of honor and love for killing makes him a very dangerous threat to anyone, regardless of their strength, and is enough to grant him the place on this list. Another brutal and emotionless swordsman is 𝐿, one of the seraphims created by Vegapunk. Seraphims are a group of genetically engineered creatures who were based on the 7 warlords of the sea. 𝐿 in particular was modeled after none other than 𝐷𝐴𝐾𝐿 Mihawk, the world's strongest swordsman. Surprisingly, he also appears to have Lunarian DNA traits, perhaps King's, from the time when he was imprisoned by the world government. 𝐿 first appears on Amazon Lily, where he engages Blackbeard. Although the confrontation was brief, it forced the Emperor to use armament hockey in order to protect himself. Besides being modeled by Mihawk, 𝐿 also wields a blade that shares a striking similarity to Mihawk's Yoru, although it's not quite clear if that's also a product of cloning or if it's just a coincidence. When it comes to feats, in the very short time he's been introduced, 𝐿 has briefly fought against Blackbeard, Lucci, Kaku, Zoro, and even Luffy. Although these weren't serious all-out battles, the fact that Seraphim is still alive just goes to show how powerful he is. It's hard to imagine that there's still 13 swordsmen on the list who are even stronger than this guy, and one of them is Trafalgar Law. Law is a member of the Worst Generation, as well as a very tactical and intelligent pirate, and as such, he suggests that you hit the subscribe button, as it's obviously the smart thing to do. Anyway, his goal is to discover the meaning behind the Will of D in the Void Century. Law ate the 𝐿𝐵𝐵 no Mi, arguably the most important devil fruit in the series, which can even grant the power of immortality. Law isn't a conventional swordsman like some of the others on this list. Nevertheless, he does frequently use his sword Kikoku and is really skilled with it. For example, even without using his devil fruit abilities, he was able to effortlessly clash against Smoker and even block some of Doflamingo's attacks. However, Law's greatest swordsmanship feat shown so far has been defeating Vergo, one of the strongest members of the Don Quixote pirates, where the wake of his slash was capable of cutting apart Caesar's laboratory and even the surrounding mountains. During the Wano arc, Law has gotten even more powerful, awakening his devil fruit and playing an instrumental role in taking down Big Mom, an emperor of the sea. Next up in 12th place, we've got King, the vice captain of the Beast Pirates and Kaido's right-hand man. He's the last living member of the Lunarians, a special race of winged people who originated from the Red Line and have the ability to generate fire. At some point in his life, King was captured by the world government and experimented on until he got rescued by Kaido, who created a strong bond between them, with King dedicating his service to Kaido forever. Although the name of King's sword was unfortunately not revealed, we've seen King use it multiple times with extreme proficiency. For example, he single-handedly stopped the Big Mom pirates from passing the waterfall and gaining entrance to Wano, as well as fighting against Zoro on equal footing. It was also recently confirmed that he was with Kaido when the Emperor planned on attacking Marineford, which just goes to show the level of trust Kaido had in King's ability as a fighter. However, no matter how strong King was, he'd stand no chance against the next swordsman on the list, Admiral Fujitora. Fujitora was introduced after the time skip as one of the admirals to fill the empty spots left by Aokiji and Akainu. Like all other admirals, Fujitora believes in a certain type of justice and is more focused on doing what's best for the people before anything else. Due to his blindness, Fujitora wields a Shikomi-zue, a Japanese sword stick that can be used both as a cane and as a weapon. He also happens to have one of the best devil fruits for a swordsman, as it allows him to infuse gravitational force into his sword and perform some really cool attacks. For example, he can propel large objects, send people flying with gravity, and even casually summon meteors to attack his enemies. Since his introduction, Fujitora has taken on the likes of Doflamingo, Sabo, Luffy, and the Revolutionaries without losing or getting injured. What's more impressive is that he didn't seem to be using his full power in any of these fights. And yes, that includes the time when he summoned a meteor. Big Mom. Charlotte Linlin is one of the most powerful characters in One Piece. She's not only power hungry, but literally eats anything and everything, including people. This is actually how she acquired the powers of her devil fruit, the Soro no Mi, by eating its previous holder. Despite her strong devil fruit, she's also proficient in using Haki, having mastered all 3 forms, including Conquerors. However, the ability Big Mom relies on the most is her superhuman physical strength. For example, she can throw tremendously destructive punches, kill a large bear with a single smack, as well as break several bones in a giant's body by trying to slap a mosquito on his back. Big Mom wields a really unique sword. It's called Napoleon, and it's actually a homie made by infusing her hat with soul fragments. Big Mom's truly a scary force of nature, with even Roger sneaking into her territory to take a poneglyph rather than challenging her. Of course, this doesn't mean she's stronger than Roger, but definitely strong enough to make him think twice before attacking her. There were still 9 unbelievably strong swordsmen left to cover, and let's continue with Roronoa Zoro. Zoro is the right-hand man to Luffy, as well as the first member of the Straw Hat Pirates. Zoro's goal is to become the world's strongest swordsman, so unlike some of the other characters on this list, he doesn't just use a sword occasionally, but tries to live by it. With that said, Zoro is also quite the norm breaker, as he's the first character so far that uses not 1, but 3 swords to fight, calling this technique the 3-sword style. His current 3 swords are Wado Ichimonji, Sandai Kitatsu, and Enma. Early in his pirating career, Zoro's battled against Mihawk, and although he didn't win that fight, Mihawk sensed Zoro's potential and let him live, urging him to become stronger. In the time that followed, Zoro defeated and took on many powerful opponents. However, his most impressive feats come from Wano, where he not only managed to injure Kaido, the Emperor of the Sea, but also defeated his right-hand man King. But the scary thing about Zoro is that unlike some of the other characters, he's still far from reaching his peak, meaning he'll definitely move higher on the list as time goes on. So far we've covered characters we have a lot of information about, but let's switch it up a bit and cover some mysterious characters now. The Holy Knights. The Holy Knights are a new introduction to the story, and their presence has helped shape the very atmosphere of the current One Piece world. Did you ever wonder why people fear the Celestial Dragons so much? You could claim it's because of the Admirals, and although you'd be right, there's another group of characters that protect the Celestial Dragons and are even more frightening than them. The Holy Knights. An organization of elite fighters who take orders from Saint Figurlin Garland, the former ruler of God Valley. These men are the ones who directly protect the Celestial Dragons and are the reason why Marijoa hardly ever gets attacked. Although Holy Knights haven't been fully introduced yet, and the only thing we've seen of them are these silhouettes, it's clear that they're incredibly powerful fighters. Their place on the list is only speculation at this point, and it may change as time goes on. Another speculative entry on the list is Saint 𝐿 V, a member of the 5 Elders. Like other elders, 𝐿 is shrouded in mystery. The only information we know about him is that his title is Warrior God of Finance, and that he's one of the few people in the world who knows of Imu's existence. In the recent chapters, however, we got some more information about his combat abilities. Specifically, it was revealed that 𝐿 and his fellow elders have some kind of power that allows them to transform into strange and powerful beasts. Seeing as he's the only member of the 5 elders carrying a sword, I think it's pretty safe to say that he's a swordsman, and a lot of fans speculate that the sword he's carrying might actually be one of the 12 Supreme Grade blades. If this is true, it would be insane, as all known Supreme Grade blades were wielded by incredibly powerful people like Roger, Whitebeard, and Mihawk. Another interesting detail is that all the elders were comfortable being in the same room as Shanks with no security, hinting that they could be on a similar level of strength. Only 6 more characters are left, and from this point on, each character can be considered a swordsmanship god. Silver's Rayleigh. Rayleigh was the vice captain of the Roger Pirates and their trusted confidant of the Pirate King himself. The two met each other during their youth, and Rayleigh quickly made a name for himself to the point that even some Marines preferred to face Roger instead of him. Although he never ate a devil fruit during his adventures, Rayleigh managed to master all 3 forms of Haki and is responsible for mentoring powerful people like Shanks and Luffy. Rayleigh, along with Roger Pirates, would regularly battle against the strongest people in the world, with even Marines like Sengoku and Garp respecting him. Throughout his journey, Rayleigh earned an epithet, the Dark King, and solidified himself as the legend. Even years after, at the age of 76, he was still powerful enough to battle against Marine Admiral Kizaru, which makes you wonder, how strong was this guy during his prime? And another legend from Rayleigh's era is Kozuki Oden. Oden was the daimyo of a certain Wano region and was next in line for the position of Shogun of Wano. He was also the leader of a group of legendary and powerful samurai known as the 9 Red Scabbards, with all of them serving as his retainers and most trusted allies. Oden was a swordsman who used a 2-sword fighting style and wielded the twin swords Ame no Habakiri and Enma. Eventually, Oden would go on to become a pirate, first serving as the 2nd Division commander of the Whitebeard Pirates and then joining Roger's crew. Sailing and sparring with the legends like Whitebeard and Roger increased his skills significantly, and when he finally returned home, he was able to seriously injure and almost kill Kaido all by himself. His haki mastery was so great that even after his death, his haki still resides in his sword, with Enma nearly draining Zoro completely when he initially tried to use it. Red Hair Shanks. Same as the last 2 entries, Shanks was also a member of the Roger Pirates, serving as an apprentice on the ship alongside Buggy. However, after Roger's death and the crew's disbandment, Shanks went on to create his own crew, which would later be known as the Red Hair Pirates. In the years that followed, Shanks would become known throughout the world for his feats, receiving the bounty of over 4 billion berries and becoming one of the 4 emperors. Needless to say, Shanks has mastered all 3 forms of haki, with his Conqueror's haki potentially being the strongest in the entire world right now. His sword is called Griffin, and although not much is known about it, it's speculated to be a supreme grade blade. Both Marines and pirates have great respect for Shanks, shown when he was able to easily stop the war at Marineford simply by asking. Okay, there was maybe a bit of threatening involved, but you get the point. Another one of his feats is regularly fighting Mihawk with their legendary duels said to echo throughout the Grand Line. More recently though, he managed to take down the Kid Pirates with 1 attack, Divine Departure. This was extremely impressive considering Kid was just coming off Wano where he helped take down Big Mom, Shanks' fellow emperor. Although Shanks managed to easily take down Kid, one character he never settled a score with is his old friend and rival, Dracul Mihawk. Dracul Mihawk is currently the world's strongest swordsman, as well as a former member of the 7 Warlords of the Sea. The interesting thing about him is that he was the only one among Swordlords to operate solo, without a crew. Mihawk wields a sword called Yoru, a supreme grade blade considered to be one of the best swords in the world. Although Mihawk is still a mystery and a character we know very little about, there's a lot of hints throughout the show that tell us exactly how strong he really is. We already talked about his epic duels with Shanks, but another hint of his true power was seen during the Summit War. It was clear that everyone on the battlefield had great respect for him, even Vista, the strongest swordsman on Whitebeard's crew. Another testament to his strength is his newly assigned bounty of 3,590,000,000 berries, which is the 5th highest bounty in the world right now. It's funny when you realize that his bounty is even higher than Buggy's, who the world government considers to be Mihawk's boss. Huh. The world government must really fear this guy. Before we cover the strongest swordsman in the entirety of One Piece, let's first quickly go over the 2nd strongest, Ryuma. Ryuma is a legendary swordsman, regarded by many as the greatest samurai to ever live. He wielded the sword known as Shishui, a mythical grade sword. Ryuma was a disciplined and powerful samurai who followed the code of honor and strictly believed in the samurai way. He was so powerful that tales of his achievements are known all across the land, with the story of how he killed a dragon with a single slash being the most interesting one. He was practically solely responsible for Wano retaining its independence, as he fended off pirates and all other threats from coming to his home country. All of these legendary feats earned Ryuma the epithet Sword God. As a swordsman, Ryuma had a particular habit. Whenever someone touched their sword sheath with his, even by accident, Ryuma would immediately take this action as a form of challenge and would duel them to the death. This behavior stems from Ryuma's belief that the sword is the swordsman, and despite his honorable intentions, this habit would get him into many needless and bloody confrontations. Countless years after his death, Ryuma was resurrected by 𝐿𝐴𝐽 in a bid to build a powerful army of undead soldiers. As a resurrected zombie, Ryuma was nowhere close to his full strength and relied on Brook's shadow to stay alive. This, however, didn't make him a pushover, as Zoro still struggled to fight him and recognized him as a great swordsman. And finally, let's cover the strongest swordsman in the entire One Piece story. The one and only Gold Teeth Roger. In his youth, Roger formed a crew called the Roger Pirates and ventured out to the sea alongside Rayleigh. After numerous adventures, the two of them ended up becoming pirating icons and discovering the legendary treasure, One Piece. Roger was a man feared by many, and in one instance, it was even said that he destroyed the army of an entire nation by himself. Only a few people in the world would dare fight him, and even they never seemed to be able to beat him. Roger was a master of all 3 forms of haki, and was arguably the most powerful haki user of his time, if not in history. Like others mentioned on this list, the Pirate King fought with a sword, and not only that, it was a supreme grade blade called Ace. Wielding it, Roger was able to take Oden down in one hit, split the sky during his battles against Whitebeard, and even help in taking down 𝐷𝐿𝐴𝐽. As the man who conquered the Grand Line and had the highest bounty in the history of piracy, Roger definitely deserved first place on this list. Click on this video where we explained all 10 awakened Devil Fruit users in One Piece.